So now we're on to Scream 3. As I've said in my previous two videos, if you haven't seen the Scream movies, these are going to be spoiler filled, so just tiptoe out if you haven't seen it. Scream 3 gets a lot of hate. It's not completely unfounded, like I understand why. Of the original three, it is the most flawed. I do think that having an actual cameo from Jay and Silent Bob was a little much. I get what they were trying to do because it was kind of like a tilt of the hat to Kevin Smith because he was like the first person to really do that whole 90s meta thing where like you have characters talking about pop culture and just observing flaws in the logic of movies and stuff. So I understand that you could even assume that the Scream movies take place in the same universe that the Clerks movies do. I mean, well, clearly they do. It was still too much. There's also the outlandishly stupid scene, whoever smells the gas. Such a particular, chain of events needed to happen in order for that to have worked. Most people would have grabbed the damn sheet out of the copier and run outside the house. Oh, let me go deeper into the house and light a lighter, of all things, to see this paper. Whoever smells and just long enough for him to say what the script says, and then the house blows up. It was outlandishly stupid. I have no defense for it. But you know what? There's a lot of movies that have that one really outlandishly stupid scene, Speed, when the bus makes that jump. That never would have happened. The Lost World, when gymnast chick kicks the velociraptor out the window. Yeah, right, the thing would have bit her leg off. I could forgive one really absurd scene. This one was also a lot more comedic. It was veering into kind of spoof territory by this point. Also, it is kind of a stretch, the entire idea of a horror trilogy. But honestly, the video that Randy leaves behind, which I thought was really cool, by the way, was kind of touched on that it's a rarity in the horror field, but it does exist. That scene also, this is the only Scream movie that Kevin Williamson didn't write, and it does show in certain points, like the video. Some of the shit that Randy says, it just doesn't sound quite like Randy. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on the script. Overall, this was on par. I could have almost believed that Kevin Williamson wrote it. There were just a couple parts here and there that I was like, eh. But acknowledging those flaws, and they are flaws, I don't get what the beef is with this movie. I found it thoroughly entertaining. The meta has gotten about as big and epic as it possibly can get, much like a trilogy. Murders happening on, the film set of Stab 3. Say what you will about how random it is to do a movie specifically about a trilogy in horror movies. It is a proper representation of a trilogy in how big it is, in how it goes back to the past. Even the hallucinations that Sidney has of Maureen Prescott, that was actually kind of freaking scary, man. This was the first Scream movie that I actually went out to see in theaters in 2000, and I was like, dude, that is actually, I found that kind of unnerving. But the whole idea that it takes place on the set, and there's even a part in the set that looks like Woodsboro, but it's different, you open a door and it's an unfinished set, and Sidney almost falls out, and then she does that cool thing where she yanks the killer through. That was awesome. The whole Hollywood douchebaggery, this was a movie that really took some jabs at Hollywood, and I just find it kind of funny because these movies were Dimension Films, which was a subsidiary of Miramax, which was owned by the Weinstein brothers, and they went really into the whole casting couch thing with Maureen Prescott, how she was, auditioned to be in these parts. And Lance Henriksen, another great actor, plays this freaking scumbag executive who had this, hidden room and shit like that. And you come to find out that everything started there in Hollywood with Sidney's mom. Roman wasn't, a particularly intimidating killer, but I do think the idea of, Sidney having a half-brother, once again, trilogy, I thought that was pretty cool. Honestly, I would have had Kincaid be the killer. Detective Kincaid. I think that would have been a lot better because that dude was serious. I could believe that he could kick some ass. He had a bulletproof vest in his office. Even how he's kind of pumping Dewey for information. I want those files, or, I want to know where Sid is. Maybe it would have been too obvious, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they could have made it not as obvious and then had it be him at the end. There is an amazing cameo in this movie by Carrie Fisher that I absolutely freaking adore, and I adore Carrie Fisher for doing it. I was offered the part of Princess Leia, so who gets it? The one who sleeps with George Lucas. brilliant. That woman was, she was a national treasure. It's a tragedy that she's gone. And the movie does get a little sloppy towards the end, but it does have a sense of finality about it. It really does feel like it wraps up a trilogy. It feels like the story is complete. I like that Dewey and Gale just kind of ride out into the sunset. The audience can take from it what they will, but mentally, a lot of the times, I like to really just think that it ended with Scream 3, like a proper trilogy, and the characters just lived happily ever after. Whether they did or they didn't, it's nice to just kind of have that send-off. But money. Anyways, Scream 3, I think is highly underrated. It is the most flawed of the original three. If you guys like it, or if you didn't, I mean, give it another watch and tell me what you think. Or if there are other things that I forgot, like other flaws, like let me know below. I love having a conversation about these things. All right, guys, that's all she wrote.